Adrian, you're muted.
I think we muted everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for our ELQN pre-proposal conference for our training and professional development RFP, which is active right now. I am Adrienne Holloway. I am working with the children at risk for this endeavor, and I want to let you know that you have been placed on mute for the beginning part of our presentation so that we don't have any unfortunate interruptions. But when we get to the Q&A portion of our conference, we will definitely allow you to be unmuted so that you can pose your questions. We also do ask that you be prepared to submit questions via the chat so we can capture those as well. Know that any questions that are posed during this live conference as well as in the chat, we will gather that information and post it on our website. Also know that this conference is being recorded and the recording will also be available on our website, and that information is also provided on our RFP, that is exact web address. So this is what we are going to go through today. The purpose of our meeting, which is focusing on the one solicitation, that's a full solicitation. The training and professional development does not include the other two small procurements. We'll talk about children at risk as an agency. We'll get additional information on that. We'll introduce you to the team at Children at Risk that's implementing this initiative. Give you a little bit of information around this particular RFP. We'll go into some details of the scope of work for this RFP and some of its structure. We will also just revisit and underscore the schedule and process for this procurement. Then we'll open it up for Q&A. I also want to note that while we are going through elements of the RFP, this proposal conference does not serve as a replacement for the details in that RFP unless it's submitted through an addendum. So we are not going to go through the entire RFP verbatim, but we'll highlight some very specific components of that. And if there are other areas of the RFP that you like some amplification, please submit that as a question during our time today. So with that, I'm actually going to introduce Nadia, who will talk about the purpose of the meeting and give you a little more overview on children at risk.
Thank you, Adrienne. Again, my name is Nadia Salibi. I'm the Chief Impact Officer at Children at Risk.
Nadia, you're muted.
Okay. Do I come in now? Okay, great. So my name is Nadia Salibi. I'm the Chief Impact Officer at Children at Risk. And if you can move back a slide to the purpose of the meeting, I'm just going to go over a few things that I know Adrienne touched on, but just to introduce our team, Children at Risk's procurement team for this RFP. We're going to provide an overview and then also make sure there's a space for any questions that anyone may have. As noted earlier, the meeting is recorded, and we're seeking an offer to develop and implement a training and coaching initiative aimed at enhancing the skills and knowledge of childcare providers, as well as community members. The initiative will focus on child development, responsive caregiving, inclusivity, cultural competency, and parent engagement. It targets both regulated childcare businesses and community members in designated zip codes within Harris County, which you'll see outlined in this presentation. The program is funded through ARPA dollars, which is the American Rescue Plan Act. And then just a couple things to note is the remarks and explanations of the conference do not qualify or amend the terms of the solicitation, and nothing stated at the pre-proposal conference shall change the solicitation unless a change is written through amendment, as Adrienne stated. Thank you. And just a little bit of an overview of Children at Risk. Our mission is to serve as a catalyst for change to improve the quality of life for children. We do this really through 4 primary pillars of research, public policy analysis and advocacy, community education, and collaboration. And lastly, before I hand it over, I just want to introduce the team. We have Adrian Holloway as our RFP lead, and our project manager is Martha Gonzalez, who you'll hear from shortly. We have an additional 5 members of our organization that focus on this work. Our CFO, Luis Negreros, our Senior Director of Education, Kim Coffrin, our Associate Director of Data, Jen Meyer, our Director of Media Activism, Brianna Derry, and our Senior Associate Director, Susanna Young. And with that, I will pass it on to Martha.
Which I think I'm going to take. Hey, everybody. My name is Kim Coffrin. I am the Senior Director of Education here at Children at Risk, and I am pinch hitting for Martha as we are all coming down with after Thanksgiving colds, and Martha has lost her voice. So I will be heading up this slide. So a little background on the RFP and where this project is coming from. The Early Learning Quality Network is an initiative out of the Harris County. It's part of the county's ARPA dollars, as Nadia said, and it's a $16.4 million initiative that the county has invested back into the community. And they have really targeted 5 communities to strengthen through community-led planning. So, many times we hear money coming down, grants opportunities come down, and the powers that be make all the decisions without really engaging the community. And this grant really allowed us to spend the last year in community, and we'll kind of highlight those communities in the Harris County that they're targeting to really hear from locals on what they want, what they need in those communities to support high quality childcare and early care and education for their communities. So targeting 5 areas, and it's really to strengthen then the early childhood care in Harris County by equipping not only caregivers but also parents and family members that are caring for the children in those communities. So they're really targeting some tailored training, stipends, and high quality resources through those community-based models and on-site coaching. And I think I'm going back to Adrian.
Yes. Thank you, Kim, and thank you, Nadia. So what we're going to do now is just go into the part of the RFP that focuses on the scope of work. So if you review the RFP, you'll see that there are some similarities across maybe the others that you have downloaded if you have. So basically our boilerplate language can stay consistent across the RFPs, and it's the scope of work that you'll see to be distinguishing among the different solicitations. So in this particular solicitation, we have 2 service lines that comprise the scope of work. This first service line is the focus is on community-based training. So our target population for this service line are parents and guardians of children aged 0 to 8 and informal caregivers, as long as they are caregiving for a minimum of 10 hours per week. And we talked about this, that we've mentioned it a lot so far, and we promise we'll get to that, in designated Harris County zip codes. And these zip codes are comprised of several different neighborhoods. So there's the diversity that exists within that target area. And then we're also looking for an income target as well. So not only a geographic target, but an income target. And that income target is households with no more than 85% of the state median income. So make note that it's the state median income and not the area median income that needs to be considered here. So this service line has some components, and it's the application process that we're looking for the offerer to design and implement, which will include the enrollment process and a verification of residency, income, and caregiver status with self-attestation. So that's basically a form that will be developed to have the individual self-attest that they meet these guidelines. And then part of this process is the training part. And that's delivering 4 in-person sessions, which is critical to understand. There's 4 in-person sessions with each lasting about an hour. And the topics that will be covered will be around child development and responsive caregiving. And we want those to be scheduled in an accessible way so that people can attend either in the evenings or on weekends. So in-person sessions on those particular areas scheduled on weekends or evenings. Participants will receive stipends for their participation. So it's $50 an hour stipend for completing all training modules, which gets them to a total of $200 per person if they complete them all. And then we're looking for the materials that are used for this training to be high quality early learning materials. We have not provided or dictated what that those learning materials must be, but we are looking for high quality, and that can come in through conversations with children at risk if need be during the contractual period. And then program implementation, there is the requirement that a process and system is employed that will track attendance for the participants, the distribution of the material to participants, and then the distribution of stipends to those participants. So the offeror would need to provide evidence of a system that's capable of tracking all of that data and able to provide a report on request. We are also looking to make sure that what is being provided is having an impact. So there's the necessity for the offerer to develop a pre and post learning assessment to be delivered to the participants, and it'll allow for a measurement of the outcomes derived from their participation in this service line. The next service line is focusing on provider training and coaching. So the target population for this service line are child care workers at regulated centers and regulated homes in the child care services program, again within the designated Harris County zip codes for this solicitation. Similarly, we're asking for the offeror to develop an application process that will allow for the verification of the business location, to identify the staff that are going to participate in the training, and then also develop a prioritization criteria so that we're also minimizing duplication of benefits. And this prioritization criteria will allow for the determination of who can be able to participate given finite resources. We're also looking for the training to include 12 hours of training. This will have as part of their training categories, inclusive practices, cultural competency, and parent engagement. So we're looking for training modules that cover those particular areas. And the offerer will need to be able to deliver this training in person, online, or in a hybrid fashion, so different than service line 1. And for both service lines, we are looking for makeup protocols. So figuring out how you're going to be able to provide makeups to those who want to participate. This service line is also asking for the offer to develop an on-site coaching program to provide 4 to 5 sessions per participant with a 1 to 550 mentor to worker ratio. There's benefits that will be received by the participants in this service line. So $50 per hour stipends for completing all modules, which will arrive at a $600 total for each participant. We're also looking for each participant to receive take-home materials valued at $50. And then the center participants, participating centers will receive classroom materials at the value of $400. Similarly, we're looking for the offerer to provide evidence of a tracking system that also tracks for attendance, the distribution of materials, the delivering of coaching sessions, and the distribution of stipends as well. Similarly, as well, we're looking to demonstrate what impact has been made through this service line. So there needs to be the development and administration of a pre and post learning assessment for those who are participating. So that is just underscoring the main component of the RFP across the 2 service lines. Again, the other elements of the program is included in the RFP for your review and digestion. So I am going to ask Kim to return and speak to the structure.
Great, thanks, Adrian. Okay, so we've been teasing you about these local communities. So here they are. So Children at Risk has been acting, has been contracted with the county to be our, what we call our network support hub. So we are convening the local network organizations, provide training and technical assistance to all of them, and administering the funds to support all of the different action plans. So each of these communities have come up over the last year with feedback from their community, those action plans. And then we're tracking our progress with the ELQN. So that's what we are doing. Then we have the local network organizations, or what we call the LNOs. And those are at the very bottom of that screen. You can see there's 4 of them. East Harris Empowerment Council, which is in Precinct 2. Harris County and a Public Library has 2, so Precinct 1 and 3. VN Teamwork, which is in Precinct 4, and then YMCA of Greater Houston, which is also in Precinct 2. So those are our 5, because Harris County has 2 different local communities. They have worked again with their child care quality action, developed their child care quality action plan with their community to really articulate what their vision and strategies are, and which is why we why we've come up with these RFPs. So this is straight from the community of what they need, and then they are supporting and mentoring those implementations of those action plans within those communities. So the recipients of this RFP will be working very closely with both Children at Risk and the LNOs as they implement those structures. Next slide. This is just a quick snapshot of where those zip codes are, and where you can kind of see them in the county. So you can kind of see where Precinct 2 is, Precinct 1 and 3 and 4. And again, you'll have access to these slides, so you'll get to, we're not asking you to memorize all those zip codes on your own.
But this is the first evidence of all of the zip codes that are inclusive these proposals. So it's pretty vast. Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
So just wanting to underscore and revisit the schedule for this procurement. So it was released on November 18th. Our pre-proposal conference is today, December 3rd. Again, being recorded and available to you post this event. We also have been open since November 18th for any questions that you may have related to this proposal. So you need to submit those questions to this email address, which is our main email address for this procurement. The last submission of questions will be by 4 p.m. on December 6th. After that, we will no longer be able to receive any questions to the RFP. All questions received that are pertinent to the greater goods, our understanding of the proposal will be posted on our website by question and by response. If there are any questions that are substantive and require some sort of change in the way that we are soliciting this RFP, that will be made known through an addendum. Otherwise, it's more of clarifying questions to help in the development of your proposal for this solicitation. The submission deadline is a firm and hard deadline, 4 p.m. on December 18th, 2024. Needs to be submitted via email to elqnprocurement@childrenatrisk.org. We do ask that you make sure to include in the subject line the name of this procurement. We do have other procurements that are active now and soon to be active. We want to make sure that we are receiving the appropriate one at the appropriate time and not having it confused with others. No late or incomplete proposals will be considered, so there will be a screening process once the proposals are received, and if they are deemed to be incomplete, they will no longer be considered. Again, note that the RFP does have required attachments. That will be an indication of whether your proposal is complete or not, if the required attachments in its totality are not included in your package. We will accept zip files if it's easier to submit to us and making sure that the integrity of the design of your proposal is intact. Otherwise, you can send separate files to us as well. And after we receive the proposals, we will enter into a review process with a designated committee for this solicitation. And through that, there may be the request for a best and final offer and or a presentation. Those who have elevated to that level of the review will receive notification of that in advance in order to prepare and the dates in which to submit and or present on those particular items we'll be asking for. Post all of that review, we are hoping to announce an award for this solicitation by January 22nd. Please note this isn't a firm, it's an expected award notification. It can change based on the number of proposals that we have and how long it might take to review them. So here, again, needed to be submitted manual or electronically, preferably electronically. If you need to submit it manually, you can contact us and we would give you an address to submit that. Again, when our address is PO Box 5603 if you wanted to mail it. Following the pre-proposal conference, again, you'll have the questions available to you and any additional ones need to be provided to us in writing. I mentioned this. All addenda will be posted on Children at Risk. No notice will be given by email or mail, so please make a point to review the website. We also ask, as part of the attachment, if there is an addendum that has been issued, that you make note that you've received it by completing the attachment appropriately. And you will find the questions and responses to this RFP on this website. Again, you'll have access to this to be able to write this down. And now we can open up the session for questions you may have at this time. So we ask that you raise your hand and state your name, the company and you represent, and then ask your question. And we have people available to call on you if you completed that request.
Adrian, we've got a couple of questions in the chat,
Okay.
but I see that Laura has her hand raised, so maybe we can go to Laura first before we do the
Yes, and
questions.
then you can just read those questions because I cannot view the chat.
Okay.
Thank you. Laura?
Hi, my name's Laura Moore. I'm from Shine Early Learning. I was just asking a clarifying question. Are we able to apply for just one service, or are we obligated to, write for both service 1 and 2?
We do ask that our proposers are prepared to deliver services for the entire proposal that's listed there, but we will consider proposals that are at least in some level complete for a service line. So we can, and we do note in the RFP that we are open to multiple awards. Heather, I see your hand.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Heather Araby. I'm with Nyhouse Education Center. I am curious about the fund distribution. So does that do we get our plan ready and we have our budget prepared and then we come to y'all and present it and then the funds are distributed to help us execute the plan? Or how does that work?
So I'm gonna see if I understand your question. Are you asking how do you receive access to funds, or are you asking how you develop your budget?
How we receive, once we have our budget and we present it to y'all, how do we then receive the funds in order to execute it?
So in this, and I believe it's in the RFP as well, this is a reimbursable grant. So
Okay.
there would be a schedule of payments based on KPIs that are determined at the contractual part between CAR and the offerer. What needs to be met in order to be able to submit invoices in order to receive reimbursement for those expenditures.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I think there might be some additional hands. I can't tell. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Hello, I have a question. Oh,
sorry, if you can raise your hand, that way we can see who's getting in line, but, I think Laura already went, I believe, so if you could put your hand down, unless you have another question, but then next is Shariah, Shariah Penny?
Yes. Hey, how you doing? Um, this is Jones Mays from NLI, National Literacy Institute, and I have a couple questions. The first question is how many awards do you all expect to have?
Because we may and are open to open awards, we can't really say how many we will award. It depends on the number of proposals we have. If majority of them are complete for entire services. It can be one, it can be multiple. So we're not dividing it initially. We're looking to see what proposers or offers are submitting to us and their capability of delivering against the expectations of this program.
Okay, so I guess in that also might answer my other question is that you don't really have a ceiling on an ask.
A budget ceiling?
Yes.
We have finite funds associated with this grant, but we do have some flexibility across the different programs. So that's why we didn't put a cap on the RFP for this, because if we find that there is magnificent proposals that are considering things that we didn't consider, we might need to make some different adjustments on the allocations we've had for other programs. This is just one RFP across 7 that are being released for this initiative.
I got you. So because it was, what is it, you have a pot of $16 million, am I correct? 16?
16.
Yeah. So the thing, well, I guess what I'm saying is that, I mean, of course, we couldn't have a proposal with 16 million, but hypothetically, if one person came in and made a justification for all that $16 million, and that would wipe out all the dollars for everybody else.
Yeah, that
Correct.
would be advantageous.
You saying that would not be?
That would not be advantageous. We have 7 different initiatives that we are soliciting offerers for.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
And Bree Dairy, you want to ask your question?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to forward one of the questions from our chat that I haven't heard come up yet. Excuse me. Adrienne, can you speak a little bit about how the focus on inclusive practices is defined within our RFPs? The question goes on to ask, is it limited to classrooms supporting children with documented learning delays or disabilities?
And I'm actually going to ask either Kim or Martha to speak to that. That was a question on inclusive practices, whether it was inclusive in terms of the children that are being cared for, or is it something related to different special needs that may be associated with the children that are being cared for, if I'm understanding that question correctly. So Martha or Kim, can you respond to that?
So it looks like Kim might have hopped off. Martha, are you able to speak? I know your voice was kind of out the window earlier.
I'm gonna try, and I'm gonna sound a little crackly, so I apologize. But the specific focus is for children with disabilities, but you can address unidentified as well. They believe the goal is to build the capacity for those participants and attending those trainings. So it's not limited to just classrooms or teachers with children with identified diagnosis, if that's what you're asking.
Did I answer your question? Oh, that was Bree. Bree, you read that question, correct?
I did, yeah. And if the person who submitted that wants to follow up with any other questions, feel free to. Otherwise, we're happy to move on to the next questions if anybody has one.
That was my question. It was helpful. The answer was helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions?
Adrienne, I'm not seeing any more in the chat.
Okay. Well, then, know that as you're processing and reviewing the application or the RFP, oh, we have a Jira Knight.
Yes, I am so sorry. I could not reach my hand raised, so I apologize for the delay. This is Jira Knight from First 3 Years. I do have a question around the target for metrics. Do you know, or is there a target of how many people and or centers we are expected to reach or impact across the LNOs?
And Martha, I'm gonna call on you to respond to that one, please.
Sorry, I'm trying to clear my throat. Across the LNOs, I mean, the goal overall is to support 2,500 children, and each of the initiatives, I think based on your reply and how many people or staff you know, that can be will be identified in each of those areas. So there would be probably a cap, and that's kind of, I think, for the offer to determine too how many can be supported in what you're providing for the cost, if that makes sense.
Yes, that is very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Nothing else in the chat, Jen?
No, nothing else in the chat.
Okay, thank you. Well, again, thank you so much for your time. You have until December 6th at 4 p.m. Say January, December 6th at 4 p.m. to submit additional questions to the email address provided. This recording will be uploaded by the end of today or early tomorrow, so that you can have access to this as well if you wanted to review that. But we look forward to receiving your proposals. And again, thank you so much for your interest in our program and in the solicitation. Know that there are additional solicitations that are going to be released, one in a day, I believe, tomorrow, and then some subsequent ones coming in the next month and a half. So make sure that you're continuing to visit our website to learn of the additional opportunities to participate in this initiative that will be available.
Adrian,
Yes.
I do have a question, Adrian, and I
Yes.
apologize. Will there be other pre-proposal conferences for the other RFPs, especially like the kits and educational resources, materials, and things like that?
No, because those are small purchases. They're not
Okay.
full RFP. So if you have any questions, you reach out to us via email and we'll
Directly.
respond directly to you. We'll post those on our website too, just for clarification purposes and some transparency. But because they're not full RFPs, we're not scheduled a pre-proposal conference for those.
Very good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And we do ask that you make sure that you put in the subject line what those question, what proposal you might be referencing with your question if you have some. Well, thank you again. Feel free to reach out with questions until December 6th. After that, we won't be able to respond directly. But again, thank you for your participation and interest in our program.
Thank you.
Thank you.